In today's Leeds news, Thorpe Arch exits, Sellis hopes to sign Gelhardt, more award nominations, Tanaka On Title win, Leeds summer budget, Leeds scout Panathinaikos fullback, Beto linked with move, and Leeds watch Besiktas striker. Morning folks, Ger here at The View, Thursday morning the 8th of May with your Leeds United news. Hope the week's going well for you so far. There's a bit of stuff to get stuck into today. There's a lot of transfer stuff, and I will give the caveat because there's plenty of new subscribers as well. This is a Leeds United news channel. I will try and give you as much credible news as we can find out and around the place, but some bits will slip through the cracks as well. There's a lot of rumoured stuff here, so take the transfer stuff with a pinch of salt. I've left that towards the back end of the video as well. But yeah, we'll start off though with some exits around the club and around Thorpe Arch, as a piece from Joe Donoghue in the Yorkshire Evening Post today takes a look at the underage setup at Leeds United and the youth players that are likely to move away from the club now that the season is done. Like every other year at this point, Leeds will have to run the eye over the youth ranks and see who's going to make the mark and who isn't, unfortunately, going to make the grade for Leeds. And there are several under 20 players out of contract this summer that will need to be considered, and most likely the bulk of these will move on. So who's likely to be released? Well, starting with striker Luca Thomas, who had a really strong start to the season for the under-21s, but then had two loan moves, one at York City and currently at Halifax Town. And he's expected to leave the club at the end of this season. Hasn't been as free-flowing goal scoring for York or Halifax as it was in the under-21 setup. Chris Moore, who has captained the Leeds under-21s from time to time, he travelled to Hibs and St Johnstone for trials this year, but didn't do enough to get a contract there, and he is expected to leave Leeds in the summer. Centre-back Conor Ferguson was out on loan at Farsley Celtic this season. He's another that's expected to move away. And Joe Snowden and goalkeeper Harry Christie will be two that Leeds will have to make a decision on. Joe Snowden has been relatively good for the Leeds United under-21s over the last couple of seasons, but whether they see him as having the ability to step on is another thing. We'll keep an eye on that one. Defender Joe Richards has already moved to Delaware in the US, along with Dan Tolson, who also accepted a deal in the States. Max McFadden, Rory Mahady, Marley Wilson are the three that will be interesting reading. All three have had serious impacts for the under-21s and under-18s before that as well, and it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Mahady is a very promising young goalkeeper and has been very, very good for Leeds United under-21s this season, considering he's still only 18 years of age and has plenty of time at that age group. Marley Wilson's missed out a little bit because of a back injury this season and last year, and Max McFadden's had a real impact, but it'll be interesting to see what Leeds do. I would expect most of those three to stay, but there's no guarantee at this level. Another one that's interesting reading is Amari Miller's contract is up for renewal, and Miller has missed several years at the club with what's been described as an undisclosed health issue, and on the report today it says that he is likely to be released as well at the end of the season when his deal comes to an end. We'll move on. Let's talk about players out on loan at the moment and his future, and that's Joe Gelhardt. And Joffy has had a very solid season on loan at Hull City this year and has been very involved in keeping Hull City in the Championship for another year next year. But the discussion around his longer term future is very much on the table right now, and Hull City boss Ruben Selles has reiterated his desire to keep Joe Gelhardt at the club next season. Gelhardt scored 5 goals for Hull in the half a season he was there, as well as operating in several different positions out on the right hand side in the 10 as well as the number 9 position. But there is likely to be interest in Gelhardt this season from other clubs, and he is entering into the final year of his deal with Leeds United, so a decision will need to be made by Leeds around selling the player or try to tie him down to another deal at the club. The issue from Hull's side, according to Hull Live today, is that Hull City can only afford to bring Gelhardt back in if it's in the form of a loan deal, and they don't have the resources to try and bring him in on permanent. However, on the other side of the coin, Leeds are in favour of a fee for the player and trying to move him on a permanent basis rather than a loan deal. Selles said that Gelhardt has been a pleasure to have at the club, but he can't talk about possibilities and specifics of what they're trying to do. But he did say that he has the qualities and the abilities that you would want from a player to have at your club, and he would be happy to have him next season. Wrexham have also been linked with a move for Joe Gelhardt this summer and are said to be interested in him, as well as Birmingham City and a few other clubs that are said to be keeping an eye on Joe Gelhardt. So we'll likely see an end to that one pretty soon. You'd imagine that one will be wrapped up pretty quickly with the season over, and then Leeds planning for Premier League. They'll likely get those kind of deals done as quick as they can. But let's move on and talk about some award nominations. And Daniel Farke has been nominated for the final Manager of the Month award, along with Blackburn Rovers manager Valérien Ismaël and Millwall's manager Alex Neil. Now, Farke has the superior record over the course of the last month. I don't think he lost the game in his final month. I think he won every single one of them, actually. So he's a favourite to get that award, but you just don't know at this time of the year what's going to happen. Manor Solomon has been nominated for the Championship Player of the Month award, and he's up against Burnley's Josh Brownhill, Swansea's Harry Darling, and Mihailo Ivanovic of Millwall. And again, on paper, Manor Solomon has the better output in terms of goals and assists for the final month, but you never know what they'll do at this stage. But best luck to the two of them in the final monthly awards. Moving on, let's talk about Ao Tanaka and Leeds Player of the Year. Ao Tanaka is determined to kick on next season after a very, very strong first season in England. The bargain signing has been labelled as one of Leeds United's standout players, and the signing of this season has been posting on his Instagram about this year and about what it's meant to him to get over the line, and he put some pretty strong challenges in his own way. Tanaka has become a fan favourite this season, and his efforts over the past couple of weeks, knowing full well the player was running on empty, are very much appreciated by the fan base, given the amount of games he has played versus previous years that he's had and the distances that he has travelled over the past 12 months. But Tanaka, like a lot of Leeds fans and myself included, had struggles this year with the form and how it was going, and posting on his Instagram, Tanaka said the following: "Season is over. It was only after coming to Europe that I felt that my efforts had paid off. It took too long to get to this point, and I think I took a long detour. There were times when I felt like giving up, but I always believed in myself and continued to struggle with what I had, which is why I was able to get this far. However, I know better than anyone else that I haven't accomplished anything yet, and that I've only just earned the right to stand on the starting line. I'm sure I'll face new challenges and obstacles from now on, but I want to feel joy in them and continue to grow. I'll face myself more than ever and work hard to make the impossible possible on the pitch." A lot of managers and coaches will tell you that the attitude of a player is the most important attribute that any player can have, but it's also the only attribute that the player brings to the table on their own. And you can see by this that Ao Tanaka's attitude and mentality are incredibly strong and positive, and that can only be a positive sign for Leeds United next season as well. He's been phenomenal for Leeds this season, deserved his awards as well, so fair play to Ao Tanaka. Let's move on and talk about the summer transfer budget, and there's been some speculation and stories floating around of what Leeds' potential summer budget may look like. But according to James Marshman, Leeds could be looking at bringing in around about 10 players this summer, which seems a little high to me. But exits are also expected, with PSR being a factor this summer as well, and don't be surprised if a couple of slightly bigger name exits happen in order to facilitate moves around the place. Some 4D PSR chess that we saw go on with Newcastle, Everton, Aston Villa and a few other clubs last season. According to a piece in Team Talks, Leeds could have a budget of an estimated £150 million for next season, and according to Sky Sports' Lyle Thomas, he believes Leeds' budget is in excess of £100 million. Now, to be clear on this, that number really isn't hard to find or get to, because it pretty much represents the increase in TV rights money that Leeds will receive next season when moving into the Premier League. Leeds will receive anything from 125 to 150 million next season. So, as Simon Jordan has said on TalkSport, that's the money that you spend, and Leeds will likely spend that money, so that's where that fee comes from. The piece also says that a striker, a number 10, a centre back and full-backs are the priority on Leeds' list, as well as a goalkeeper this summer. Tony Mowbray was speaking on this topic as well, and he said that if he was Leeds, he would be looking at spending closer to £200 million this summer. And if I'm being honest, I think I probably agree with Tony Mowbray's assessment on this. I think Leeds would need to spend slightly more than the previous club spent in the last 2 years, and all went back down, and it's more a case for me of getting quality over quantity this summer as well. But it's an interesting one to talk about and keep an eye on. But there are some transfer links, and we'll move into talking about them now. First one in comes from reports in Greece, and according to sportdog.pr, they claim that Leeds have sent scouts to Greece to watch Panathinaikos promising right back Georgios Vagiannidis, claiming that there is increasing interest in the player across Europe. The 23-year-old will play in what's been labelled as the Greek derby against Olympiacos this week, and it's reported that several scouts will be in attendance to throw their eyes over the promising fullback, and Leeds are said to be one of the clubs sending scouts. But you'll never guess who else is interested in the player, and the report reads as follows. In fact, both Everton and Leeds appear ready to submit offers of between £8 to £10 million to Panathinaikos since they want to sign the player in May, while they have already approached the 23-year-old international Greek right back. The date is interesting on that, stating that they want to get the deal done in May, which means they'll want to get it done before the PSR cut-off point on the 30th of May this month. It's an interesting one to see why that would be an important one for them, given that they're in the Premier League next season. But Junior Firpo and Sam Byram are both expected to leave Leeds this summer, which means Leeds will still need to bring in a right back and a left back for cover and competition this summer. Let's move on to the main striker story that was talked about yesterday, and some slight clarification on that story today has come out, and this relates to Beto in a Sky Sports exclusive report, which comes from chief reporter Rob Dorset alongside Lyle Thomas. They claim that Leeds United want to sign Everton striker Beto this summer. In the report, they claim that Leeds will have a budget of about £100 million to spend, and that Beto is one of Leeds' striking targets. Beto has 2 years left on his current deal at Everton, and the report says that a deal of more than the £20 million that Everton paid for Beto last season will be needed to get a deal done. He is Everton's current joint top goal scorer with 7 goals, which doesn't sound like an awful lot, but there is some context needed on this. Beto's 7 goals have come from 1,280 minutes played this year, which is the equivalent of around about 14 games, meaning that he ends up the season with a 1 goal in every 2 game average, which on paper is pretty decent for a striker. And he is seen as a little bit of a cult hero back in Italy. Last season when he joined Everton, he scored 3 goals in 9 starts for them, and before that in the 22-23 season in Italy, he scored 10 goals for Udinese in 23 starts for them as well. And he is seen as a promising striker, and he has a lot to him, but he's probably not the exciting striker Leeds are looking at. According to the report, they said that Leeds have earmarked £30 million for a striker this summer, and it could be Beto, but he's not the only striker Leeds have been linked to. I haven't covered the Troy Parrott story because it came from the Irish Mirror, and their credibility record is really, really low and really poor, and I don't think, personally, being Irish, I don't think Troy Parrott's of the level that Leeds would need next season. But let's talk about a potential young striker coming into the club next season, and according to reports in the Turkish media, Leeds United are said to be showing interest in Besiktas young striker Sami Kilicsoy. The 19-year-old striker has been linked multiple times with moves to the UK over the past 18 months, and Leeds are the latest club to be linked with a potential move for the young striker. Yemir Asir today reported that Leeds United are interested in Kilicsoy, and that they say that the interest from Leeds is said to be concrete. They claim that Leeds officials will travel to Turkey in the coming days to try and strike a deal with Besiktas. The Turkish media say that there's a possibility of a possible loan move here, but that doesn't really seem to fit with what Leeds will be looking for here. He appears to be what Leeds will be looking to add another striker to the under-21 ranks in order to add more competition and refill those ranks after serious exits over the last 2 seasons at the club. And Matteo Joseph now being seen very much as a first-team player. Leeds will need to bring in some younger strikers there for the under-21 side as well and try and develop them into future first-team players. But it's an interesting one to keep an eye on. For me, yeah, Kilicsoy to me looks on paper to be an under-21 signing, but the other ones are interesting. Let me know your thoughts down below. It's all rumour right now. None of these are concrete. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Leeds aren't expected to do anything imminently right now, but that could change depending on what happens in the next couple of weeks. But we'll keep an eye on it and I'll let you know when they do happen. But that'll be it for me today, folks. Back in the morning for more Leeds news, and I will talk to you then. Enjoy the rest of your day. See you soon. Bye.